We got our first coronavirus jobs numbers this week, and they were not pretty. We knew they were going to be bad. They were even worse than we expected. And the answer from the vice president to that question about what they're going to do about that was all that money, $350 billion being loaned to small businesses. Well, the question is that going to be enough? And we asked that of Glenn Hubbard. He's a Wall Street Week contributor. Of course, he's from Columbia Business School. He was the chief economist under George W. Bush. And this is what Glenn Hubbard had to say.
Well, it's possible that the Fed can assist, but actually most of this is going to be on the taxpayers' back because, remember, these loans are really grants as long as small and mid-sized firms don't lay off their workers. So I think Congress will have to augment that support in future bills. But frankly, the Treasury Department and the SBA are going to have to redouble their efforts right now to make the program work for banks and borrowers. They're not where they should be.
That's Glenn Hubbard of the Columbia Business School. And now we welcome our special Wall Street Week contributor. He's Larry Summers, former Treasury Secretary. He also was the chief economist under President Obama. Larry, I apologize if I'm hesitating. I'm hearing myself in my ear. But Larry, whether $350 billion is enough or not, you have to get it to people first. What assurance do we have that that will get to people quickly?
There are a lot of people working very hard, and we'll have to see what happens. My suspicion is that Glenn's fear that we're going to need more money very quickly is not going to materialize because the pipes are going to be sufficiently clogged that whatever the principles, money won't flow that fast. But certainly it's going to be very important for the economy to stand this program up as effectively as we can. And look, that's going to require that the government provide the banks with clarity. It's going to require that the government set strong expectations for the banks. But it's also going to require that the government make clear that there aren't going to be any big-scale recriminations afterwards, because you don't move hundreds of billions of dollars to small businesses in periods of a month or two without there being some misappropriation, malappropriation of funds. That's something we probably have to accept as a country in order to stabilize the situation, but the government's going to have to make clear that it's going to bear that.
Larry, do we have any sense at all of how much we could reduce some of that unemployment if we got the money out today?
I don't think we're going to eliminate the largest part of the unemployment. People are not flying on airplanes. Therefore, employed workers at airplanes need to be on furlough. We may be able to make more of it be furlough and less of it be permanent layoff, and that'll help the economy come back when the time comes for the economy to come back. We may be able to keep purchasing power a bit better fortified, and that'll help when the economy comes back. But the basic reason why we have so many people unemployed is that people can't shop, and people can't actually function in their workplaces. And there's some jobs, I'm fortunate to have one, that you can do working at home, but the best estimates are that only about a third of us have jobs that you can do at home. And most of the other people have jobs working in stores or jobs working in dentists' offices or jobs working in entertainment places or jobs working in restaurants or jobs working in factories where you can't do the job from home. And you can call it furlough, you can call it short hours, you can call it unemployment, but it's the basic physical reality of the medical situation that's controlling here.
So, Larry, certainly the jobs numbers were very striking for all of us this week. What other news struck you particularly that we should be paying attention to?
The thing that scared me most wasn't actually the job numbers, bad as they were. We know that unemployment's going way, way up, and the bad job number just reflected how much of that had already happened in the survey week in March. The thing that troubled me was the growing signs out of Asia, particularly Singapore, that places that thought they had brought this under control with social isolation, who had enjoyed substantial stretches with essentially no new cases, were starting to see outbreaks of new cases, and having relaxed measures, were having to put back quite substantial control measures. And that raises the question of whether we're going to be doing an accordion on this thing for quite some time to come, where we take the pressure, social control pressure off, and then the disease recurs, and then we put the social pressure back, and it undermines the effectiveness. It makes the case that we really need to be prepared to stay the course and not to do this current phase in an incomplete way, because if we do, we're just going to be back doing it again and again.
Well, and Larry, when you talk about Singapore, that is a developed and relatively wealthy economy, actually. What is this going to do when it really hits Latin America, when it really hits sub-Saharan Africa, some of the less developed countries around the world?
You're seeing catastrophic pictures now out of Ecuador, and we will see them come. I mean, frankly, we're looking at a lot of pictures and a lot of reports that make New York City seem like it's a developing country. And if we're seeing developing country conditions, shortages of masks, not enough ventilators, crowded people pounding on windows trying to get into medical facilities in New York, I shudder to think what we're going to be seeing over the next several months in Africa or in India or in Latin America. And it's coming at a moment when the leading countries in the world, countries like the United States, are not going to be in a position to provide assistance in the way they normally would because of the magnitude of our challenges. And it's coming at a time when I fear that at least the expansionist elements within China are going to see an opportunity to gain goodwill and influence, and maybe even more than that. So finding a way, even as we're fighting the war at home, to be cooperating with our allies, with the other countries in the G-20, with the international institutions, to provide support for the developing world is something I think we have to keep our eye on, even with everything else that's going on.
And Larry, finally and briefly, have we seen the high water point of privatization as effectively, because the governments are really taking over the economy around the world?
I think that the Reagan-Thatcher tide is going out. You're not going to hear any political figure say for a long time after this that government is the problem, not the solution. You're going to see an emphasis on stronger, better governments and the importance of performing basic public functions, of maintaining strength of our community. I think that things were moving very much that way in the United States, certainly, and certainly in a number of places in Europe. But this is going to very much accelerate that by demonstrating very clearly that the only way we're going to get a vaccine is out of government. The only way we're going to get rules that are going to keep us safe from others in our community who are contagious is governmental action. And so I think people are going to think about governments in a different way in the aftermath of this.